exactly are you?
Your mother, she's awaiting your rescue. I'll be your guide.
Greetings all, my name is Tom Laspisa and I'm the author of my fantasy novel, The Agra Saga. Welcome to Mythmaker. Today we'll be diving into how Studio Ghibli's latest film, The Boy and the Heron, explores the main character's grief through a surreal and dreamlike fantasy setting. Following the analysis, I'll share how you can write dreamlike settings and incorporate them into your own stories to achieve a heightened level of symbolic depth. As a warning, this video will be very full of spoilers, so if you haven't seen The Boy and the Heron for yourself yet, I highly recommend you check it out before watching this video. Keep in mind that this is just one interpretation of the film from one particular lens. I will not be analyzing this story from a meta perspective based on how Hayao Miyazaki's inspirations were put into this film, but rather I will be analyzing it from a perspective within the narrative itself. There are other videos out there that tackle the film from the meta angle, so you can check those out for yourself. There are also a million ways in which this film can be interpreted since it's so bizarre, frankly, and full of intense symbolism, so treat this as just one view among many. The story unfolds with the main character Mahito navigating the complexities of grief, while the fantastical, dreamlike world serves as a canvas for his internal struggle with loss. His grief encompasses the tragic events of losing his mother in a hospital fire during World War II, moving to a new home, facing rejection at school, and grappling with the acceptance of a new mother, who has a child of her own. Any of these events would be tough for a child to endure, and yet Mahito must face them all at once. Parallel characters in the dream world mirror individuals in Mahito's reality, such as Kiriko, the tough young sailor woman, paralleling the elderly Kiriko, Lady Hime, the young fire magic girl, representing Mahito's deceased mother, and the dolls, embodying other old women in Mahito's new house. These characters serve as psychological introjects, or internal representations that guide Mahito throughout his journey. Mahito experiences several flashbacks of the hospital fire where his mother died. However, fire changes throughout the story from a force of death to an element of energy and life. For example, the young Kiriko uses a fire whip to save Mahito from the pelicans, and later, Hime uses fire magic in a multitude of ways to protect him from harm. Birds in the film embody aggression and antagonism, representing intrusive thoughts, doubts, guilt, or self-hatred that relentlessly hound Mahito. The birds, especially the pelicans and parakeets, symbolize the ravenous nature of negativity, as they seek to devour Mahito as if his own pessimism hungers for fulfillment. The Heron, functioning as a trickster character and a manifestation of Mahito's internal psyche, initially leads him into the tower to commence the grief process. Despite its initially wicked and sinister appearance, the Heron's true nature is revealed as a mix of comedic, pitiful, and endearing qualities. Mahito's ability to see through the negativity marks the first step towards gaining control over it. As the story progresses, the Heron becomes increasingly helpful, emphasizing the importance of working through these emotions rather than letting them control Mahito's life. Mahito, at one point early in the story, attempts to harm the Heron with a sword-like stick, and later constructs a bow to outright kill it, but these efforts fail. Only when he acquires a magic feather from the Heron and chooses to enter the fantasy dream world does he gain a level of control over the Heron. This marks the beginning of Mahito grappling with his inner critic and confusion. Once Natsuko disappears, Mahito knows he must enter the tower to look for her and his mother. However, he has yet to learn that these two quests are, in a sense, one and the same. The half-buried, half-crumbling tower represents all of Mahito's negative experiences, thoughts, and emotions. It's every bad thing piled up in one mysterious mess. The inscription on the tower bears the same inscription found at the gates of hell in Dante's Divine Comedy, which translates to, "I was made by divine power." These negative experiences make up the quote-unquote gateway that Mahito must pass through to truly begin his journey of healing. After all, the grief process begins when we can finally face these awful things and enter into them. Mahito encounters an illusion of his mother produced by the Heron, which melts away at his very touch, as though the thought of his mother that led him through the grief process begins to fade away and pull him into something far deeper. Once Grand Uncle, the master of the tower, commands the Heron to officially be Mahito's guide, is when the deeper journey truly begins. Mahito must pass through the gates into death and pain to emerge on the other side. It's here that he meets the young version of Kiriko, who saves him from the devouring pelicans and acts as a tough guide to him. This is when Mahito learns that hard work is required to get him to the next stage in his own grief, as he must row through the harsh sea, dredge up great fish, and carve deep into them to reveal the nasty bits inside. He sees, after having passed through the gates of death, that this leads to rebirth when he encounters the adorable Wada Wada creatures, which are souls who have yet to be born. He connects with these as he, too, is yet to be reborn into a new manner of being. And yet, the pelicans attack and eat the Wada Wada, which is a fitting metaphor for how our own inner negativity can prevent our efforts to be reborn. And yet, the dying pelican that Mahito encounters after it was attacked by Hime the fire girl explains that the pelicans are starving and have nothing to eat. One way to view this is that negative thoughts, shame, guilt, these things cannot be satiated by anything except by killing off the forces that renew your spirit. They eat away at you, and they do not stop. Natsuko, Mahito's stepmother, rejects Mahito in the scene and even yells and screams at him. It's unclear if this is truly her reaction or perhaps how Mahito believes she views him. Regardless, she can't accept him because he hasn't yet accepted her, but it's at this moment where his view starts to change. He can't stand the separation he feels from his real mother's death, and so he learns that to ever have anything like that again, he must accept Natsuko into his heart and life, which he finally begins to do in this scene as he refers to Natsuko as mother multiple times before being pulled out of the room. The Parakeet Kingdom can represent the final struggle between the ravenous sadness, depression, fear, and rage against the freedom of acceptance and new horizons. The silly yet terrifying parakeets emphasize the notions of violence to control. They are colorful, flamboyant, loud, insatiable, and very unreasonable. The Parakeet King seeks to usurp the creator of the dream world, Grand Uncle. Now that he has started to accept Natsuko as his new mother, Mahito can begin to interact more with his real mother in Hime, as she protects him several times with her fire magic within the kingdom. Though the parakeets entrap Hime to use her as a bargaining chip against Grand Uncle, Mahito is able to eventually free her and escape with her to the portal tower where the doors of time and space reside. It's around this time that Mahito learns that Hime is the teenage version of his real mother, who found her own way inside the magic tower years ago. It's ironically through her own acceptance of both her eventual death in the fire and that she must later give birth to Mahito that he can part with her at the end with a joyous love that is free of bitterness. Sometimes the most horrible, life-changing events in our lives come crashing in. They feel as though something awful has plummeted directly into our hearts and festers without end. The meteorite that Grand Uncle created the dream world around is similar to the tragedies that befell Mahito. Regardless of his plans, the meteors of pain broke into Mahito's life and left him with the same magical force within the dream world, malice. This malice emanates from the meteorite within Grand Uncle's world and, in a strange way, gives it life. Although Grand Uncle desired a world free of wars and conflict, an entity of malice cannot bring about the opposite of its essence. Sometimes, we build our own fantasies around that festering rage to protect ourselves from the wounds of shame and guilt. But these wounds ought not to be sustained or passed along to others. They must be healed. Grand Uncle can represent another internal voice of Mahito, one like his own if he imagined himself as old and wise. The old man has called Mahito to his dream world to be his successor and to build a new world free of evil. Grand Uncle has attempted this himself, but his own block tower is corrupted and, without the right balance, it teeters on the verge of collapse. He has tried to create a world free of the hurts of reality, but this cannot last. Even though Grand Uncle offers Mahito blocks untainted by malice, Mahito knows that he himself is not untainted. Like Grand Uncle, Mahito has tried to create a tower, an entire world out of very unbalanced blocks, or parts of his own life. He must learn at the end of his journey to allow this tower to fall, to let go of the fear, anxiety, and emotional burdens he tries to construct his current life with. Instead, he must build his life by accepting what is, and to make a new world for himself that is good through the sufferings that he has endured. And so, Mahito rejects Grand Uncle's offer, accepts that suffering is a necessary part of life, leaves his real mother Hime with a sweet goodbye at the doors of space and time, and returns to reality with Natsuko as an integrated and renewed young man. The Boy and the Heron shows us a dreamlike world that's absolutely jam-packed with symbols and references that you may even miss upon the first viewing. It draws us into a setting that's both surreal yet vaguely familiar. So, what can we learn from The Boy and the Heron, and how can we create dream worlds in our own stories? Crafting fantastical scenes and dream sequences requires a delicate balance of elements to transport your audience into a realm where the boundaries of reality and imagination intertwine. However, if you write these scenes incorrectly, it can come across as hectic or confusing to the audience. With that in mind, here are some qualities to consider when writing your dreamlike settings. At their core, dreamlike settings are driven by metaphorical symbolism. In other words, people, places, things, and actions that suggest or represent a deeper meaning than their literal interpretation. Ultimately, the setting created must properly house symbols and metaphors that are relevant and deeply resonant with the characters exploring them. Symbols that may seem peculiar or out of place within the context of your scene can help to create a dreamy sensation. However, tying those symbols to qualities or ideas close to your characters deepens their significance within your story. These symbols should act as a bridge between the tangible and the abstract, offering a unique lens through which your characters and readers can explore deeper emotions and themes. Embrace using strange, surreal, and fantastical imagery that challenges the conventional norms of reality. Create landscapes, creatures, or events that defy logic but resonate with the emotional core of your narrative. Surrealism allows your readers to experience the extraordinary and invites them to interpret the narrative on a symbolic level. Remember, the reader or audience is smart. They will notice when something feels like it holds a deeper meaning or mystery. Audiences find joy in trying to unravel mysteries in good stories, and surrealism can introduce some of that fun. Blur the lines between reality and illusion. In dreamlike settings, the boundaries of what is possible can be malleable. Characters may transition seamlessly between different states of consciousness, or the laws of physics may bend. One setting may be directly juxtaposed aside an entirely different setting, such as an open field of flowers being separated from a castle at the bottom of the sea by a towering wall of water. A character may suddenly find that they possess a ticking clock of light within the palm of their hand. The villain may reach into the horizon and steal a star from the sky. This fluidity adds a sense of unpredictability and can keep your audience engaged in the dream world. Ensure that at least the most important elements in your dreamlike setting contribute to the emotional resonance of the narrative. Whether it's the play of light, the peculiar behavior of creatures, or the landscape itself, the details of the setting should invoke a specific emotion, deepening the connection between the characters and the dream world. Define a clear narrative purpose for your dreamlike setting. Ask yourself how this dreamscape serves the overall story arc and character development. Dream sequences should not be mere diversions, but integral components that contribute to the thematic exploration and progression of the plot. For example, a character may be discovering a sense of enlightenment with their sense of self, and so they find themselves in a realm of bright, open sky where a thin layer of clouds acts like a carpet. Or perhaps a character may be in their darkest emotional hour, confused and alone, so they stumble through a dense jungle beneath the earth, barely lit by hostile, bioluminescent creatures. One fun and interesting way to do this can even be to switch the examples I gave above, where the setting feels dissonant with the emotional state of the character. Try different things and see what works. Introduce layers of reality within your dreamlike settings. This can involve nested dreams, shifting perspectives, or alternate dimensions. By incorporating layered realities, you add complexity to the narrative, prompting readers to question the nature of the dream and its implication on the characters' journeys. Consider describing as many sensory elements of your dreamlike setting as possible to truly convey otherworldliness. Try to describe or create unique sounds for the setting or sensations of touch that seem off for the materials in the world. Introduce vivid smells that may hint at a deeper truth within a character's mind. Perhaps the main character enters a house where every object is painful to the touch. A pot over the fireplace crackles with electricity within, and the house smells of a faint burning. Experiment with the distortion of time. Dreams often play with the concept of time, such as by compressing or elongating moments. Use temporal shifts to create a sense of urgency, nostalgia, or anticipation within your dreamlike scenes. In The Boy and the Heron, we saw this quite directly with the doors of time and space, where Mahito's real mother, Hime, was still a teenager but understood that both needed to return to their own times for reality to unfold properly. The Boy and the Heron from Studio Ghibli is a complex and compelling film that weaves real-life struggles with wondrous places and people. Beyond the fantastical, its surreal settings embody deep psychological symbolism that directly relate to Mahito's emotional journey. This film teaches us that fantasy settings can be so much more than dragons, magic, or time travel. Not that any of those things are wrong in and of themselves. They can be representative of some of our darkest fears, most intense inner conflicts, and our greatest emotional triumphs. Dreamlike settings, as showcased in The Boy and the Heron, blur the lines between reality and illusion, presenting an unpredictable and engaging experience. By delivering a delicate balance of surreal imagery, emotional resonance, and a clear narrative purpose, dreamlike settings like those in the movie can bring an audience to a place of wonder, mystery, and insight. As you venture into crafting your dreamscapes, embrace the power of metaphor, challenge conventional norms with surreal elements, and ensure the details contribute to the emotional depth of your story. Remember that symbols should act as a bridge between the tangible and the abstract, and they should invite readers to unravel mysteries and interpret the narrative for themselves. With these qualities, your dreamlike settings can captivate your audience. So what did you think of The Boy and the Heron? Did you like the film? Did you not care for the film so much? Were you confused, or did it kind of check all of your Studio Ghibli boxes? I'm curious to know what your interpretations are of the settings and characters of this film, so please share your thoughts in the comments below. Also, if you're a fan of fantasy adventure stories and you want to help support what I do here, then please pick up a copy of my book, The Agra Saga, by clicking on the link in the description box below. If you want more analyses on stories and characters from some of your favorite books, shows, movies, and games, then please like the video and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, Godspeed and happy writing.